The Minnesota Timberwolves opened up their playoff campaign with what felt like a winnable loss to the Denver Nuggets, and in games that feel winnable, there's always a lot of things that just go slightly wrong. For the Wolves, it was their shooting, it was Julius Randle and Naz Reid having bad games, it was the Murray and Jokic pairing finding a groove, but the storyline was always going to be Anthony Edwards for them in this game, and I think there were a lot of really intriguing things that went into a really intriguing night for Minnesota's superstar. The obvious elephant in the room is that he didn't look completely healthy. Whether that was the knee bothering him, his conditioning after not playing for a while, or a combination of both, it was obvious that this wasn't peak Ant physically, but I do think there were things in this game, both good and bad, that weren't strictly related to his physical condition that are definitely worth digging into. I think early in the game, against Denver's aggressive defense, it was the ability to read the two on the ball, see the second layer of help shifting over to stop Gobert's roll, and then make that swing pass to get the defense into rotation and open up seams for his teammates that really helped the Wolves be at their best early. It was the playmaker version of Ant that really got the ball rolling, I think. Whether it was in more of a point guard role or an off-ball role, he's always going to draw attention when he comes off a screen, and I thought he made quick decisions to get the ball swinging around to a point where Denver couldn't really recover to a really high level early in this game. And that meant using different options and making different reads. Making Jokic work different angles on this ball screen and fully engaging him so that that pocket pass opens up, and then executing that difficult pass to Gobert, who was awesome at finishing and catching in this game. Again, he's here engaging Jokic in that high hedge defensive coverage and then sliding it through that pocket, and now Denver have this outnumber situation on the weak side where Minnesota can exploit them defensively. No matter what condition Edwards was in health-wise, Minnesota needed him to break this coverage as a playmaker, enough to at least keep the offense ticking. This time, when the low man starts to creep early to get Gobert's roll, he just finds the skip pass to that weak side corner himself and breaks their defensive coverage that way. So when Denver were in that specific high wall coverage, Edwards did cut their defense open a number of times. Ant's 26.9% assist percentage in this game was the 6th highest of his season. And I do think that was the main reason that this game was a really enthralling battle in the first half. But whenever Denver threw something else at him, that's when we saw the mixed bag that kind of became the bigger theme of his day as the game went on. Specifically as a shooter, where his legs did look like they weren't there, it felt like he let Denver's defense off the hook too often. When he's coming off this corner zoom action, and he gets into this position with a runway to go at Jokic in the paint, he needs to take that runway. He can't bail Denver out with a pull-up three there. Look, Ant does need to make pull-up threes for Minnesota to win this series. The best version of Edwards is a pull-up three machine, and they need the best version of Edwards to win. Like, if Denver are pincering him in with this gap help, that three ball has always been a reliable staple in his game that can't just go away because this is a downhill series. Or if he's coming off a ball screen and Denver aren't high enough with their coverage, that's been a kill shot for Edwards for 2 straight seasons, and it needs to be there still. But this is a downhill series, and that means he needs to get downhill when that's the best option. If that gap help isn't set, he needs to get downhill right away. Prodding into the gap help on the wrong side and then giving Denver's defense time to set up their second level gaps and then bailing them out with a pull-up three isn't what's going to maximize Minnesota's offense in this series. It's easy to sit here and say that Ant needs to beat defenders off the bounce and punch these gaps to the rim more consistently, but him being able to do that has always been the advantage Minnesota has over this great Denver team. Now this might be the most obvious of the signs that Ant is still trying to find peak fitness. Being able to constantly do this is going to be tiring, and if Ant is battling that knee, it's probably the first thing that will waver. But with it seeming like he doesn't have his legs under that jumper, that's probably not going to be the bailout shot that he needs in this series. And to me, this really feels like a big swing point over the next few weeks. If those threes aren't going down, and Edwards can't get downhill over and over again, it's tough to see Minnesota winning. Because when he was able to sub out those threes for drives to the rim, he looked like the player who can really distress this defense. Again, when that gap helper fades out of the help and Ant splits the seams of the defensive shell, you can see that there's no rim protection there to contain him. So how often can Edwards do that is going to be the question. When there's no Jokic blitzing him and he's just got the gap helpers here to deal with, how often can his body and his mind allow him to slice that up and get to the most dangerous spot on the floor for Denver's defense to stop? That's going to determine how much he can drag Minnesota's offense through this series, especially if we are going to see this version of Julius Randle and Naz Reid as secondary options on the floor at times. Edwards shot 5 of 6 at the rim in this game, and Minnesota as a team shot 24 of 29 at the rim. The efficiency there is insane, but both of those attempt numbers need to be higher in this series going forward for Minnesota. And at worst, getting into the middle of the defense and working in the mid-range will at least put the pressure back on Denver defensively. Again, you'd rather him getting to the rim instead. If he's going at a non-blitz coverage and he's got this lane, he needs to put pressure on the rim instead of settling for that mid-range shot. But if Ant's legs aren't there right now on his 3-ball, then there is work he can get to from the mid-range area, either as a scorer, someone who can draw fouls, or as a playmaker who can collapse the defense and then spray passes to shooters. If he's able to do that more consistently, while mixing in a steady dose of the stuff at the rim, and hopefully getting his rhythm back on his jumper, then we might get closer to the peak version of Ant that Minnesota needs. And this is the fun of the playoffs, right? Both teams throwing their punches, star players seeing different things defensively, and then seeing who can win the chess match at the end of it. Right now, it's advantage Denver, and Edwards, like a lot of his teammates, will need to find a way to fight back. If you like this video and want to see more like it coming up during the playoffs, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and give me your takes on this game in the comments below. Thanks again for watching.